1 Nephi chapter 4. After the unfortunate mishap in chapter 3 of Laban and Lemuel beating Nephi and Sam, and the angel appearing and promising that Laban would be delivered, Nephi and his brothers go back to Jerusalem. However, instead of drawing lots, Nephi enters the city by himself and is guided by the Spirit to where he finds Laban. When he finds Laban, he notices that Laban is incapacitated due to alcohol, so Nephi is then commanded to do something pretty serious that he's not so sure about. But of course, Laban and Lemuel didn't go willingly. It took some convincing from Nephi and a pep talk to get them to go back to Jerusalem. So we read about this and their journey back starting in verse 1. And it came to pass that I spake unto my brethren, saying, Let us go up again unto Jerusalem, and let us be faithful in keeping the commandments of the Lord. For behold, is he mightier than all the earth? Then why not mightier than Laban and his 50, yea, even than his tens of thousands? Therefore let us go up, let us be strong like unto Moses, for he truly spake unto the waters of the Red Sea, and they divided hither and thither, and our fathers came through out of captivity on dry ground, and the armies of Pharaoh did follow, and were drowned in the waters of the Red Sea. Now behold, ye know that this is true, and ye also know that an angel hath spoken unto you, wherefore can ye doubt? Let us go up. The Lord is able to deliver us, even as our fathers, and to destroy Laban, even as the Egyptians. Now when I had spoken these words, they were yet wroth, and did still continue to murmur. Nevertheless they did follow me up until we came without the walls of Jerusalem. And it was by night, and I caused that they should hide themselves without the walls. And after they had hid themselves, I, Nephi, crept into the city and went forth towards the house of Laban. And I was led by the Spirit, not knowing beforehand the things which I should do. Nevertheless I went forth, and as I came near unto the house of Laban, I beheld a man, and he had fallen to the earth before me, for he was drunken with wine. And when I came to him, I found that it was Laban. What's really neat about these verses is that Nephi, in order to convince his brothers to go back to Jerusalem, he actually refers to the scriptures that he reads. He goes back to Moses and talks about the parting of the Red Sea, and he uses these as an example of, yes, the Lord does live and he does bless his people, and they can do impossible things. The Lord is stronger than Laban, because we saw him be stronger than Pharaoh and his huge army. Laban is nothing compared to Pharaoh, so we can definitely go and accomplish what we need to do with Laban. It's just cool to see that Nephi treasures his own scriptures and his own stories, and they bolster his faith. Now when Nephi finds Laban, he finds that he has a sword, and he is then faced with a big conundrum, and we read about this starting in verse 9. And I beheld his sword, and I drew it forth from the sheath thereof, and the hilt thereof was of pure gold, and the workmanship thereof was exceedingly fine. And I saw that the blade thereof was of the most precious steel. And it came to pass that I was constrained by the Spirit, that I should kill Laban. But I said in my heart, Never at any time have I shed the blood of man. And I shrunk and would that I might not slay him. And the Spirit said unto me again, Behold, the Lord hath delivered him into thy hands. Yea, and I also knew that he had sought to take away mine own life. Yea, and he would not hearken unto the commandments of the Lord. And he also had taken away our property. And it came to pass that the Spirit said unto me again, Slay him, for the Lord hath delivered him into thy hands. Behold, the Lord slayeth the wicked to bring forth his righteous purposes. It is better that one man should perish than that a nation should dwindle and perish in unbelief. And now, when I, Nephi, had heard these words, I remembered the words of the Lord which he spake unto me in the wilderness, saying that, Inasmuch as thy seed shall keep my commandments, they shall prosper in the land of promise. Yea, and I also thought that they could not keep the commandments of the Lord according to the law of Moses, save they should have the law. And I also knew that the law was engraven upon the plates of brass. And again, I knew that the Lord had delivered Laban into my hands for this cause, that I might obtain the records according to his commandments. Therefore I did obey the voice of the Spirit, and took Laban by the hair of the head, and I smote off his head with his own sword. So after Nephi comes across Laban's body, the Spirit tells him, I have given you Laban, so that you can kill him, and that you can therefore go and get the brass plates without any more trouble. But Nephi is not a murderous being. He does not want to kill Laban. But then the Spirit reveals to him that if he does not get the brass plates, his people will remain ignorant to the commandments of God. And that ignorance, as stated in verse 13, would lead them to dwindle and perish in unbelief. So ultimately, it's the physical well-being of one wicked individual versus the spiritual well-being of untold generations of beings. And the Lord makes it very clear through Revelation to Nephi in that moment that, yes, you need to do this. This would have been very challenging, and we need to remember that Nephi is still a very young man. But regardless, Nephi still has faith that the Lord knows what he's doing, and that he needs to follow through with what he's being told. So, in the end, he does kill Laban. But that's just the first objective. Nephi still needs to go obtain the brass plates. So the story continues in verse 19. And after I had smitten off his head with his own sword, I took the garments of Laban, and put them upon mine own body, yea, even every whit, and I did gird on his armor about my loins. And after I had done this, I went forth unto the treasury of Laban, and as I went forth towards the treasury of Laban, behold, I saw the servant of Laban, who had the keys of the treasury, and I commanded him in the voice of Laban, that he should go with me into the treasury. And he supposed me to be his master, Laban, for he beheld the garments, and also the sword girded about my loins. And he spake unto me concerning the elders of the Jews, he knowing that his master, Laban, had been out by night among them. And I spake unto him as if it had been Laban. And I also spake unto him that I should carry the engravings, which were upon the plates of brass, to my elder brethren, who were without the walls. And I also bade him that he should follow me. And he, supposing that I spake of the brethren of the church, and that I was truly that Laban whom I had slain, wherefore he did follow me. And he spake unto me many times concerning the elders of the Jews, as I went forth unto my brethren, who were without the walls. And it came to pass that when Laban saw me, he was exceedingly frightened, and also Lemuel and Sam. And they fled from before my presence, for they supposed it was Laban, and that he had slain me, and had sought to take away their lives also. And it came to pass that I called after them, and they did hear me, wherefore they did cease to flee from my presence. And it came to pass that when the servant of Laban beheld my brethren, he began to tremble, and was about to flee from before me, and return to the city of Jerusalem. And now I, Nephi, being a man large in stature, and also having received much strength of the Lord, therefore I did seize upon the servant of Laban, and held him, that he should not flee. And it came to pass that I spake with him, that if he would hearken unto my words, as the Lord liveth, and as I live, even so that if he would hearken unto our words, we would spare his life. And I spake unto him, even with an oath, that he need not fear, that he should be a free man like unto us, if he would go down in the wilderness with us. And I also spake unto him, saying, Surely the Lord hath commanded us to do this thing, and shall we not be diligent in keeping the commandments of the Lord? Therefore, if thou wilt go down into the wilderness to my father, thou shalt have place with us. And it came to pass that Zoram did take courage at the words which I spake. Now Zoram was the name of the servant, and he promised that he would go down into the wilderness unto our father. Yea, and he also made an oath unto us that he would tarry with us from that time forth. Now we were desirous that he should tarry with us for this cause, that the Jews might not know concerning our flight into the wilderness, lest they should pursue us and destroy us. And it came to pass that when Zoram had made an oath unto us, our fears did cease concerning him. And it came to pass that we took the plates of brass and the servant of Laban, and departed into the wilderness, and journeyed unto the tent of our father. Success! Nephi, he takes the sword of Laban and all of his clothes, and then goes back to his home. There he meets the servant of Laban, named Zoram, and he is able to deceive Zoram using the clothing to tell him to go get him the brass plates. Zoram, honestly, I don't know how he doesn't recognize that it's not Laban, but he goes and gets the brass plates and delivers them to Nephi, and Nephi says, hey, come with me, I need to go take these to the elder brethren, and Zoram just operates under assumption that it's someone that he knows. But things get a little tricky, because when Nephi and Zoram leave the city, Nephi's brothers see Nephi dressed as Laban and assume it's Laban, so they start taking off in fear. But Nephi, he calls out in his normal voice to his brothers to let them know that he's there. When he does that, Zoram now is like, oh, this is not Laban, and he wants to run. But Nephi recognizes that if Zoram gets away, the Jews in Jerusalem, who are not big fans of Lehi, might gain knowledge of where they are and might be able to come track them down and kill Lehi and his family. So it's imperative that Nephi doesn't let Zoram go away. So Nephi grabs a hold of him, and then he's able to convince Zoram that it's not worth staying in Jerusalem. Now, it seems like Zorm was already kind of not wanting to be in Jerusalem, and he probably also noticed that, well, if Nephi is wearing Laban's clothes, my master is probably dead, and things are not going to be very good for me if I go back. And the Lord, I'm sure, also softened Zorm's heart to make him more open to the idea. But at the end of the chapter, Zoram, Nephi, his brothers, they go back to the tent of their father with the brass plates in tow. So mission success. Now to me, there are two key points in this chapter. First, in verse 6, "And I was led by the Spirit, not knowing beforehand the things which I should do." Nephi is exercising so much faith here. He probably doesn't know the layout of the city. He probably has no idea where he's going. But he trusts that he will get the revelation he needs. This is an incredible display of faith. And this is how revelation typically works. We receive it bit by bit as we act. And that is what Nephi is doing here. Nephi doesn't have a clear picture in his head of everything that's going to happen. Because Nephi exercised his faith, the Lord is able to give him revelation, and as Nephi continues to act and do the best he can, the Lord gives him more. And so it is with us. We don't always have a clear picture of what is going on. We have to trust in the revelation that we receive and trust in the Lord and exercise our own faith. And as we do that, we will also be led by the Spirit, even though we don't know what we should do. And the second point, of course, is referring to Nephi being commanded to kill Laban. We may be tempted to think that what Nephi did was wrong, but even the Lord was telling Nephi that he needed to act. Laban had made his choices, and he condemned himself by being a wicked man. And if there's anything that is a pretty consistent theme throughout the scriptures, is that the Lord destroys the wicked, because he will uphold those who exercise faith in him and are righteous.